Rain poured in sheets that night, drenching the cracked steps of St. Mary's Church. The wind howled through the shattered stained glass, yet one woman refused to move. Clutching her worn Bible to her chest, Angela Brooks, a 34-year-old single mother with deep brown skin, short curly hair tucked under a damp scarf, and eyes full of quiet fire, sat on the front pew. Her old denim jacket was soaked through, her hands trembling not from fear, but from resolve. The city had ordered the church's demolition at dawn. She wasn't leaving. "Ma'am, you need to go," the security guard said, his voice soft but firm. "They're bringing the bulldozers tomorrow." Angela didn't even lift her head. "This place isn't just bricks," she whispered. "It's where my mother prayed when my daddy was sick, where we fed the homeless every Sunday. You tell them, if they want to tear it down, they'll have to tear me down with it." If this story touched your heart, take a moment to spread hope. Hit like, share it with someone who still believes in the power of faith, and subscribe to Broken Chains for more true-to-life stories that remind us. One act of courage can spark a movement. It started as one woman's stand. But within hours, word spread. A neighbor took a photo. Angela, drenched, sitting alone beneath the flickering candlelight in the dark church, and posted it online. "Faith that won't move," the caption read. By morning, that picture had gone viral. The next day, as the sun rose, reporters and curious onlookers gathered. Angela hadn't slept. Her eyes were red, her knees bruised from kneeling all night. Yet, when the city workers arrived with yellow helmets and clipboards, they froze. Before the gates stood a crowd, dozens of people holding signs, singing hymns, praying. A woman who had nothing had somehow gathered a movement. Angela looked out the cracked doors as Reverend Thomas, an elderly man in his 70s with silver hair and kind eyes, walked up the steps. "Child," he said softly, "you don't have to do this alone." Angela smiled weakly. "I was never alone, Reverend. He's been here the whole time." She pointed upward, rain dripping from her fingertips. Inside the church, candles flickered over broken pews, the air thick with damp wood and hope. A young journalist, Maya Lopez, approached her cautiously. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, holding out her recorder. Angela turned to her, eyes tired but bright. "Because they've taken everything from this neighborhood, our homes, our people, our peace. This church was the last place that still made us feel seen. I can't let that go. Not without a fight." Hours passed. More people came, neighbors, strangers, former parishioners, even city workers who remembered being fed there as kids. They brought food, blankets, candles. A local pastor came to pray with her. A teenager played gospel music on his phone, filling the church with soft melody. It was as if the old building had come back to life one last time. By sunset, a city official, Mr. Hensley, arrived in a black coat, carrying the paperwork to begin demolition. "Miss Brooks," he said, "I understand your passion, but this property is unsafe. It's condemned." Angela rose slowly, wiping her hands on her wet jeans. "Then condemn me too," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "Because if this church falls, a part of our history falls with it. You think it's just an old building, but this place fed the hungry, sheltered the cold, buried the forgotten. You can't bulldoze faith, sir." The crowd went silent. The only sound was the patter of rain and the wind whistling through the rafters. Mr. Hensley looked around, the candles, the faces, the people singing softly, and something in his expression shifted. He saw not ruin, but resilience. "Give me time," he said finally. "I'll see what I can do." That night, Angela sat on the same pew, exhaustion etched into her face. A little girl from the crowd, maybe 8 years old, holding a daisy, walked up to her and placed the flower on the altar. "My grandma said she got food here once," the girl said shyly. "Thank you for saving it." Angela's eyes filled with tears. She took the girl's small hand and whispered, "No, sweetheart. You all saved it." Weeks later, the city voted to preserve St. Mary's as a community landmark. The roof was repaired, the lights restored. The church reopened not just as a place of worship, but as a shelter, a soup kitchen, and a center for those in need, just like Angela dreamed. When reporters came back, they called her the woman who refused to leave. But Angela just smiled. It wasn't me, she said. It was faith. And faith is bigger than fear. One Sunday morning, months later, she stood in front of a packed congregation, some rich, some poor, all united. The air smelled of fresh paint and candles. Sunlight streamed through the new stained glass window above her, depicting a woman kneeling in the rain. Angela looked up at it, her eyes glistening. "If anyone ever tells you your faith can't change the world," she said softly, "remember this old church. Remember what one night of believing can do." The crowd rose in applause, tears glimmering in their eyes. And as the choir began to sing, the church that was once moments from death filled with new life. Voices rising, hope echoing through its walls once more. Angela closed her eyes and smiled. Against all odds, she had proven that faith wasn't just something you felt. It was something you stood for, something you built movements on, and she'd never leave it again.